Today, we're taking you to Noida, a huge, bustling city right next to Delhi. But our story, it's not about the busy city life. No, this one takes place high up on the 12th floor of an apartment building, where one family's dream of a new home turned into an absolute nightmare. And it all came down to what was hiding inside a single, unassuming wall.
This quote, right here, it really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? A family moves in, all excited for a fresh start, with absolutely no idea that just behind the plaster and paint, a terrible secret was sealed away, one that was desperately trying to get out.
So, let's rewind. Our story kicks off in October of 2008. The Sharma family is moving into their new home in a pretty nice building in Noida. You know the feeling, right? They're full of hope, thinking this is the start of a perfectly normal, happy new chapter. So let's meet them. We've got Ranjit, a textile businessman, his wife, Reena, a homemaker, and their son Raman, who's in college. Just a totally ordinary family, living a pretty ordinary life, which honestly is what makes what happened to them so incredibly terrifying. So they're settling in, cleaning things up. They get to the balcony, and there's this big cabinet left behind, pushed up against one of the walls. They decide to move it, and that is when they see it for the very first time. A huge, dark, black spot on the wall. They hadn't seen it when they first toured the place. But now it was impossible to ignore. At first, they just kind of shrugged it off, Maybe it was some bad plaster or something. But that black spot, it was just the beginning. Soon after, a whole series of really strange, really unsettling things started to happen, and all of them seemed to center right around that balcony wall. And things escalated fast. First, it was just cold drafts and weird shivering sounds coming from the balcony. A few days later, this awful smell started, and no amount of cleaning or air freshener could get rid of it. But then, it got way more direct. They're watching TV one night, and the balcony curtain starts shaking violently, even though all the windows are closed. No wind. Later that same night, Reena swears she sees a woman's face staring in at them from the window. And the next morning, they found the proof. A woman's handprints on the outside of their 12th floor window. How do you even explain that? This is the point where the story really shifts. We've gone from strange sounds and smells to something else entirely. The presence in that apartment was becoming more direct, way more aggressive, and it started to personally target every single member of the Sharma family.
Now, Ranjit, he was trying to be the skeptic, the rational one. But then he had an experience he just couldn't brush off. He wakes up one morning and finds the balcony door, a door he knows for a fact he locked the night before, standing wide open. He goes out, touches that wall with a black spot, and while all the other walls were warm from the morning air, this one was unnaturally cold and damp.
But what happened to Reena? Oh, that was on another level of terrifying. One night, she wakes up feeling this heavy weight on her chest. As her eyes adjust to the dark, she sees a woman sitting there looking down at her and growling. Before Reena can even scream, the figure just vanishes right into the balcony curtains. This wasn't a feeling anymore. This was physical. It was hostile.
And then there was their son, Raman. He just started to change. He wasn't going out with his friends. He stopped using his phone. His parents would find him just sitting out on the balcony for hours and hours, not doing anything, just staring silently at that black spot on the wall. One day, his mom, obviously worried sick, goes out and asks him what's wrong, what's he doing. He looks at her, and then he turns back to the wall. Mom, he says, she is crying. Reena is just stunned. She asks him, who is crying? But Raman doesn't answer her question directly. He just points right at that dark stain on the wall and says, she can't breathe inside. Somehow, this college kid knew that whatever or whoever was in there was trapped and was suffocating. And here's the thing. It wasn't just the Sharmas experiencing this. Their neighbors started to complain about that same awful smell getting into the elevators. Others started reporting that they were hearing scratching and knocking sounds coming from inside the Sharma's balcony wall. And then an elderly neighbor dropped a bombshell. The family who lived there before, a couple with a daughter who were always fighting, had just disappeared one night. Vanished.
The absolute final straw came for Ranjit one evening after he took a shower. In the steam on the bathroom mirror, 2 words were written: not anymore. He freaks out, runs from the bathroom, only to see the exact same message written on the balcony window. And just a moment later, Reena comes to him, her face pale. She had just seen it too. This wasn't just a haunting anymore. This was a message, a cry for help. And that brings us to the horrifying climax of this story. Their son is talking to something in the wall. Their neighbors are hearing noises from inside their apartment, and now there are messages literally appearing out of thin air. The family knew they couldn't handle this alone. They had no other choice. They called the police.
So the police arrive, and they listen to this completely unbelievable story. But with the foul smell, the cold spot on the wall, and the neighbors' reports backing it all up, their attention zeroes in on that wall. They get a handyman, and they tell him to drill a hole in it. The moment the drill bit breaks through the surface, something splashes out. And it wasn't dust. It was thick, dark, black blood.
The handyman immediately stops, yelling that the wall is hollow. One of the officers grabs a flashlight and shines it into the small hole. The beam catches something reflective. It was a pair of eyes. Inside the wall was the body of a young girl. The police immediately started breaking down the rest of that wall.
The post-mortem report revealed the true, unimaginable horror of what had happened. The girl was the daughter of the previous tenants. She died from suffocation, and her body had been in there for 2 or 3 months. But here is the most chilling detail of all. She had been sealed inside while she was still alive. Those scratching sounds the neighbors heard, they were real. Her fingers were completely broken, worn down to the bone from trying to claw her way out.
So, the secret of the wall was finally out. But the story, well, it wasn't quite over. For the Sharma family, and for the spirit that had been trapped for so long, there was still one final chapter. And as you can probably guess, the Sharma family packed their things and left that very same day. They never went back. I mean, who could? The police had declared it a crime scene, but even if they hadn't, you could never live in a place where you knew you'd been sharing your home with such a terrible, tragic secret.
And here is the final haunting detail. After the girl's body was finally removed, everything just stopped. The foul smell vanished, the scratching and the crying sounds were gone. But instead, some of the neighbors reported hearing something new. The faint, clear voice of a young girl saying, "Now I can breathe properly."
And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? All of that terror, all of that fear the family went through, it was all just a desperate attempt to be found. It really makes you wonder, doesn't every voice deserve to be heard, even if it's coming from the other side of a wall?